The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
The voice of the creative economy.
With Vincent Heeringa.
He's back from Ideologue magazine, ideologue.co.nz. Hello, Vincent.
Good morning, Wammo.
Good morning. Now let's take a look at the new issue, which is almost out.
It's so hot, it's not even with you yet. It's just off the printers and in my hot little hands. It's a beautiful thing.
Who's on the cover?
Well, in some ways it's a no-name on the cover, but a name that I think that we will be hearing a lot of. A guy called Geoff Matthews, who, to me, kind of exemplifies everything that Ideologue stands for in some ways. He is a guy who specialises in finding niche businesses and turning them into successes. His background is interesting. You might remember Jim Bolger, one-time Prime Minister of the country. He was Jim Bolger's press secretary and then went on to become an entrepreneur. And he noticed that everyone had trouble with their tax returns, and so he started a thing called taxrefunds.co.nz.
Oh, yeah.
And sold that for, well, nobody quite knows, but the rumour is enough for him to buy a Ferrari, which he went on and did. But he became a consultant and it found somewhere around about Twizel there are some lakes up there, and in the lakes, the hydro lakes, are salmon that have been spawned there some time ago.
Yeah.
And found a struggling fish farm, helped the fish farm kind of reinvent themselves, and then ended up buying it. And now is exporting this salmon. And what makes the salmon really unusual is that it's freshwater salmon.
Yeah.
Typically chefs will prefer saltwater salmon, but this is freshwater salmon. And he's tapped into a particular niche in Japan especially, where freshwater salmon is all but gone in Japan. And they've tapped into a kind of a nostalgia market, and it's eaten by the emperor, no less.
Okay. For quality salmon. Have you ever visited the particular farm that we're talking about?
I have not.
I've got one in mind. I mean, I maybe there's a few around there, but there's one on the hydro scheme, the water races they have.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah, okay.
That's exactly it. And kind of what appealed to me from the story is it's kind of all the wrong things. You know, the wrong guy, he had no history in fish or fish farming. The freshwater salmon are the wrong salmon to be selling. The hydro scheme is kind of like the wrong place to do it, because you can't expand, so you can't add lots and lots. And yet they look like they're making a tremendous success out of it. I just love that kind of unpredictable success story. And the magazine itself, as I was flicking through it, has so many of these kind of elements. A woman called Kate Beezar started. Now, I'm embarrassed to admit this, actually. She approached me some years ago with a publishing idea, and I thought that it wasn't a great idea, and I told her so. And
you were just one of those roadblocks, one of those walls.
I was the guy that turned down the Harry Potter manuscript. But her magazine, Dumbo Feather Pass It On, has just got this incredible following.
In Australia, yeah?
Yeah, she's a Kiwi. She lives in Waiheke.
Okay.
But she's done a very clever thing in making it sold on both sides of the Tasman, which is not often that happens in publishing. And then another piece in the mag that's kind of related to that is one of the founders of Trade Me, Rowan Simpson, has written a long essay kind of reflecting on the lessons learned from Trade Me, but then he's also gone on with his Trade Me Millions to found a lot of other businesses, some successful, some not, and has got a kind of thoughtful piece about what makes a startup successful.
Oh, cool. Well, it sounds like some inspiring stuff in there. Just going back to Geoff Matthews, is he also an angel investor as well?
Well, he is kind of, yeah. What happened is he became a business consultant, and got so frustrated that he would, to him, provide really good solutions, that he started investing in the companies, because typically people would take his advice and say, well, that's great, but we got no money. And he thought, well, if it's only money that you need, that's the easy part. So he actually started investing in companies, and one of them that he came across, he after tax refunds, he came across a guy from Paraparaumu who was making guitar pedals. And the guitar pedals were incredibly popular, and particularly in the States. People like Geoff Beck were using them, and Joe Satriani. And he thought, how the only thing that's stopping this guy from success is actually a bit of money. So he invested in they're called Red Witch guitar pedals.
Great.
And they're now doing a roaring trade in that really high-end market where the pedals are incredibly expensive, but you don't need to sell many of them.
I love hearing those kinds of stories, and if only the government was making those kinds of investments rather than gambling on sport. Yeah, but that's a story for another day.
It is a story for another day. But Ideologue's chock full of people with crazy ideas starting things up and totally inspiring New Zealanders who are not your usual banking capitalists, but actually people who get off their bum and do things and take risks.
Not your usual Prime Minister. Thanks, Vincent. Cheers.
A pleasure, Wammo.
Vincent Heeringa over at ideologue.co.nz.